Okay, so I think we've started the recording. Welcome, everybody, to our 218th Wedding Online Sports Economics Seminar, our last one before Christmas. It's a great pleasure to have Carlos Varela-Quintana presenting Following My Team on the Road, the Impact of Top Division Football Clubs on Tourism. Just before we start, I wanted to just mention that in the reminder notification, you will have seen the schedule moving into January. So we do have talks lined up on the 16th of January, 23rd, and 30th. And then we've got a free session at the moment on January the 9th, if you did want to present something fresh after the Christmas break. And then we've got 3 slots in February and March. I've also stuck in dates of various conferences and abstract deadlines. One abstract deadline to be aware of is the first Monday after the break, 5th of January. There's an abstract submission deadline for the International Football History Conference at Fulham Football Club, in case you're interested in another different conference at a football stadium, and a nicely redeveloped football stadium at that, at Craven Cottage in London. So do follow the link there if you're interested in that. Carlos, are you going to be happy taking questions as you go along, or do you prefer questions at the end?
It's the same for me.
Okay,
You
fine.
can
So
interrupt when you want. Okay.
yeah, okay, grand. Well, all yours.
Thank you.
Carlos, por la pantalla completa.
Yes, I know, Julio. Okay. Okay, thank you for coming to this presentation. The title of the work is Following My Team on the Road, the Impact of Top Division Football Clubs on Tourism. So the topic is about sport tourism, and this work was conducted by Roberto Patuelli from the University of Bologna, and myself, Carlos Varela-Quintana from the University of Oviedo. And this is the outline of the presentation. I begin with the introduction. I motivate the paper, and I describe the data set and the empirical strategy. And finally, I conclude with the result, the conclusions, and possible extensions of the work. Okay, let's start with the motivation of this work. It's well known that tourism is one of the most important industries in the world. Here we can see some figures. In 2023, there was 1.3 billion tourists in the world, international tourists, representing about 3% of the global GDP. So it's an amazing industry. And here, however, we are not going to focus on tourism, but in sport tourism. And here the figures are also impressive. For example, according to Visiting Britain, in 2019, there was about 1.5 million trips to attend football matches in the UK. The sport tourism represent a small portion of the cake. It represents only 10% of the global tourism spending, but it's growing a lot. It's estimated that that sport tourism grows about 17.5% per year between 2023 and 2030. So it's not surprising seeing these figures, seeing this data. It's not surprising that governments, local governments, regional governments are interested to take advantage of this economic opportunity. And they have 2 ways to exploit the sport tourism. One way is hosting mega events like the Olympics, like the World Cup, or Formula One events. Another type of intervention is supporting local sport clubs. And the idea of this work is focusing in this second type of intervention and the impact it has. And here we have some examples of how governments support sport clubs. For example, this work focuses on um, Spanish football. So here we have some examples of Spain. For example, the regional government of Valencia supported three teams in Valencia, assuming the guarantees for some debts. Real Madrid benefited uh, uh, through a land exchange with the city of Madrid in 2011. The Athletic Club of Bilbao has also advantages because has support in order to build the new stadium in 2011. And other figure is that La Liga received 16 million of euros in 24-25 from the state national lottery. And finally, if we go to my region, in my region, there are two teams, two clubs, the Sporting, Gijón, and Real Oviedo. My last team is Real Sporting Gijón, and they don't pay anything for using the stadium. They only pay €1 per year. So they use the stadium for free. So these type of advantages and benefits are not available for the rest of businesses. Obviously, I love Sporting of Gijón, but I also love pizzas. So why Sporting of Gijón has this type of benefits and pizzerias not? So here we have some economic justifications for support sport clubs. Some type of justifications are related to externalities, positive externalities is well known. For one example of positive externalities is that, okay, I'm not a member of Sporting of Gijón, but I'm happy if the Sporting of Gijón wins. So here we have a positive externality for me, my happiness. And so if the Sporting of Gijón wins, all the city will benefit and the social cohesion will increase. Also, having a club in the first division would is a good example for the young and would improve the healthy habits between the citizens. It's well known that when there are positive externalities, the market doesn't produce the optimal level of goods. So here the state has to produce and intervene. However, positive externalities are very difficult to measure, and here we are going to focus on the tourism impact. And as we can found that the media and the people think that having a team in the first division can benefit tourism. In two ways. You can attract tourism flows from the cities or the visiting team the day of the match, but also your visibility increases. So you can receive more tourists, not only from the city of the visiting team, but also from the rest of the country. And here we have some news related to these ideas that we can find in the media. This is a news in Britain. It's related to with Luton, a team that was in the Premier League. I think that 2 seasons ago, and in this season has a benefit of tourism, and this idea is also in Spain. For example, having a team in the first division is very important for the province of Almeria. Okay, and what do we know? There are standard literature that has analyzed the impact of hosting big events, that analyze the impact of Olympics, hosting the World Cup and the Formula One. Some of them provide evidence that the incomes sometimes are lower than the costs. This is here we have the examples of Storm and others that analyze the Formula One, and Varela-Quintana and Federson and Meaning found no impact on employment of hosting World Cup. Okay, and what do we know about hosting sporting clubs or having a sporting club in the first division or in the second division? Okay, a paper by Spear found that if a club is relegated, this impact negatively to its financial situation. And there is a strong literature in the US that analyzes the impact of having a club in the university, how this affect the college application admissions. And we have studies in the US, but also in Europe. For example, the analysis of the paper of Singleton, Bell, Chang, and Reade in 2024, and Weimar and Schauberger in 2018 found all these papers that if you have a team in the first division, in the college sports, on the European football, this has a positive effect not only in the number of applications, but also in the quality of applications. And if we analyze the economic effects, we found mixed effects here. For example, but et al. Found no significant impact of college sports on sales and employment using ARMA model. Bratchard found using found that relegation reduces employment growth in European regions using a regression in discontinuity design. Bradbury, Coates, and Humphreys in 2023 analyzing several studies found or underlined that there are very limited economic impacts of stadiums and clubs. And a paper of Webb and others found a positive effect of college sports on hotel demand using a random effects model. Okay, so the effects found in literature are mixed. We think that we can shed some light here. Okay, and what are the research questions? The first one is, does tourism from distinct cities increase when a club promotes? The idea is that if you play in the second division, you play against medium-sized cities. So if you promote, you usually play against large cities like Madrid, Barcelona. So will you receive a higher number of tourists of these cities the day of the match? Because Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid has a higher number of members. So we expect that if you promote, you will receive higher number of tourists. The second research question is does the overall tourism increase when a club is promoted? The idea here is that if you if you promote and play in the first division, your visibility will be higher. So it's the idea that fans usually say, if we are not in the first division, we are nobody. We are not in the world. So if you are in the first division, your visibility will increase, and you will receive more tourists from the rest of the country. So we are going to try to answer these research questions. And for this, we are going to analyze the first and the second divisions of the Spanish football. We are lucky because we can exploit experimental data set based on mobile phone locations that has the advantage that provides a very high segregation, a high granularity, in the sense that for each city in 1 month, we have the number of tourists that receive from other cities. For example, Madrid, in January, we have the number of tourists that receives from Barcelona, Sevilla, Oviedo, Gijón, and so on. So we have monthly data. So in 1 month, a city plays twice against the teams of other cities. So we have generate here an indicator in order to introduce a shock and analyze the shock. However, this data set has also disadvantages. One disadvantage is that here we have the COVID pandemic, so we cannot exploit all the data set. It excludes excursionists. We only have tourists. That is to say, people that sleep in the city. And we know that people that go to other city in order to go to the match, they usually don't sleep there. And finally, the last disadvantage of this data set is that because for privacy reasons, the National Institute of Statistics of Spain doesn't provide data when the number of tourists are lower than 30. So we have sensor data. We are going to analyze 4 seasons from 2021, 2022 to 2024, 2025. And the sources of this data for the tourism data, we are going to use the National Institute of Statistics of Spain, and for sport-related data, we are going to use Transfermarkt. And here we have a staggered design. So here we have 12 sub-experiments. And I'm going to explain how they are. I'm going to focus here we are going to analyze the immediate effects of the promotion and the relegation, that is to say, the impact in the year that the team is promoted or relegated. But we also are interested to analyze the persistent effect, that is to say, the impact in the second year or in the third year. Okay, I'm going to show how is in the first sub-experiment. In the first sub-experiment, we are going to analyze the effect of the promotion in year 2022. For this, we are going to take the first year, the baseline, the year where all cities have teams that are playing in the second division. And there are 3 cities that are treated. That is to say, cities whose teams are promoted for the first division and play in season 2023 in the first division. So we have 3 cities, 3 treated cities whose teams are promoted and play in the first division, and we have 15 cities whose teams remain in the second division.
Carlos, can I interrupt you?
Oh, yeah.
Tell
Sorry,
me.
Carlos, can I just quickly ask a question of clarification? When you say promotion 2022, does that mean that they were promoted at the end of the season that ended in 2022 and played in the next division in the season that ended in 2023? Is that what that means?
Exactly, Stefan. They in season 21-22, so this season, they play in the second division, and at the end of this season, they are promoted and play in season 22-23 in the first division.
Thank you. Great.
Okay, thank you, Stefan, for your question. And we can repeat this in a second experiment. Here, the idea is the same. We are going to analyze the impact of promotion in season 2023. And here we comparing the season 2022-2023 with season 2023-2024. Here we also have 3 treated cities and 14 control cities. And we can repeat this experiment analyzing the impact of the promotion in 2024. And this, we can repeat this not only to analyze the promotion, but also the relegation. So teams that are playing in the first division and are relegated to the second division. So here we have 3 sub-experiments that analyze the promotion, the immediate effect of the promotion, and we have 3 sub-experiments that analyze the immediate effect of the relegation. And we can repeat this to analyze the persistent effect. So here we are going to analyze again the effect of promotion in 2022, but instead of comparing with 2023, we are going to comparing to season 2024. So we are going to see the impact in the second year. And we can
Carlos, can I interrupt you?
Yes.
So Rob's got a question.
Thank you. Sorry to disturb your flow here, but what's happening with the control group? You've got teams that only stay in Segunda Liga, but what are you doing about the teams in La Liga, Primera, who don't get relegated? Are they controlled for, or are they excluded somehow?
Okay, for the teams, when we analyze the promotion, we compare the 3 cities whose teams are promoted and play in the first division with the cities whose teams are in the second division. Here, we have to take into account that some teams in the second divisions are also relegated to the third division. So these teams are excluded. And here, when we analyze the relegation, here we compare the three teams that are relegated, sorry, the cities whose teams are relegated and play in the second division with the 13 cities whose teams remain in the first division in La Liga. I don't know, Simon, Robert, if I answered your question.
No, that's fine. Thanks.
Okay. So here we can repeat this to analyze again the persistent effect in the second season comparing 2023 to 2025. Here, sorry, there is a mistake. And here we can also analyze the impact in the third year, in the third season. And we can repeat this not only to analyze the impact of the promotion, but also the relegation, the impact in the second season, and the impact in the third season. So finally, we have 12 sub-experiments. And to take advantage, to exploit these sub-experiments, we are going to use a weighted stacked difference indifference approach. The idea of a stacked difference indifferences approach is very similar to a two ways fixed effects difference indifferences. We have an indicator of the treatment that we obtain multiplying the treated city by the month, time variable. And the difference with two ways fixed effects model is that we have into account the stack of the cohorts. Okay, and here we introduce some controls. One control is the distance. Here we can expect that the higher the distance, lower the number of tourists that you will receive. We also have into account the popularity of the host city. It's expected that if the city has a higher popularity, will have more tourists. We also have into account the price of the rooms using the average daily rate ratio between the home and away city. Here, we expect that the higher the price, the rooms in hotels, lower the number of tourists that the city will receive. We also have into account that it's very unusual, but it could happen. It could happen that a city that receives twice cities from that receive twice teams from other cities. It's usual that, for example, Oviedo would play against in the first week of the month. It plays against Madrid and the second match of the month. Oviedo will receive a team of Sevilla, for example. But it's possible that Oviedo in 1 month receive teams of the same city, for example, Madrid. In 1 month, Oviedo could receive Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. So we have to take this into account, including in the equation the number of matches that one city play against teams of other city. We also have into account that if the matches are played on Saturdays or in the rest of the days of the week, because people are more willing to travel and to sleeping up in one city if it's Saturday and not Sunday, because the following day the people have to work. We also have into account if there is a decisive match. For example, some matches are more important, especially at the end of the season, because clubs are playing for the relegation or the promotion. So, and the fans are more willing to travel in these cases. And finally, we have into account the size of the market. That is to say, the number of members that of a club. So it's expected that if you play against Barcelona, you receive Barcelona, you will receive a large number of fans of this club, because the number of fans is higher than, for example, clubs like Paoli. And here we have the results. I'm going to present the impact on tourism coming from cities or visiting teams. I'm going to present the immediate effects, the persistent effects, and what explains the impact. And finally, I'm going to show the impact on tourism coming from the rest of the country, the impact of relegation, promotion on tourism coming from the rest of the country. And here we have the impact on tourism from the cities of visiting teams. Here we have the immediate effects, and here we have the 6 sub-experiments. In the 3 first sub-experiments, we analyze the impact of the promotion. We see that the impact is positive and significant in the 3 cases. And we also see that the impact on tourism with relegation is negative and also significant. We, in all these 6 cases, we conducted the parallel trend test, and only in 1 case, in the 4th sub-experiment, only in this case, we don't pass the parallel trend test, but it's because a calendar effect. Because in this case, we have 3 teams that were relegated. One of them belonged to Valencia, and Valencia in the pre-treatment season at the beginning played against teams of Madrid, that Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, that were very populated. So at the end of the season, played against small cities. So here, because of the calendar effect, it doesn't pass the parallel trend test. Okay, and here we have the aggregated effect, the promotion, the relegation, and we can see that the effect is positive and significant, the promotion, and the relegation, the effect is negative and also significant. And we conducted a test, and we don't reject the null hypothesis that the coefficients are equal, but with the opposite sign. And here we have the analysis of these effects are persistent. And we can see that the effect in the second season and the third season are also positive and significant in the case of the promotion and also in the relegation. And here we have the aggregated impact. We can see that the effective promotion in the first season, the second season, and the third season are positive and significant, and the effects of the relegation in the first season, second, and third season are negative and significant. Once again, we only have two cases that the sub-experiments don't pass the parallel trend test, but as I said before, it's because of calendar effect. And here we conducted a test in order to see if the coefficients are equal, the three effects are equal, and we can and reject the null hypothesis. So here we have heterogeneous effects. Okay, and here I'm going to explain what the impact, what is behind behind this number, these figures. Okay, in the first column we have the effect of the promotion and the relegation, as are the effects that we saw before. The effect of the promotion was positive and significant, and the effect of the relegation was negative and also significant. What happens when we introduce controls? Okay, when we introduce controls, we see that the distance is negative. Also, we have a U-shape. The host city popularity has a positive effect. Here we have an inverted U-shape. The number of matches against the same away city has a positive effect. If the match is played on Saturday, has a positive effect on the number of tourists that you receive. If the match is a decisive match in order to promote, it has a positive effect. If the prices of the rooms of hotels are expensive compared to the origin city, the impact is negative. And after including these controls, we found that the defects of the promotion relegation remain significant. But what happens if we include the size of the market? That is to say, the number of members of the clubs. If we include the members of the clubs, we obtain that the impact of the promotion and the relegation vanishes, disappears. And because behind the promotion and relegation impact, we have that we have that the explanation of having more tourists when you are promoted is because you are playing against teams that belong to large cities. And obviously, if you relegate to the second division, you lose this market. Okay, and here we analyze the impact of promotion, relegation, not in the tourism that you receive from the visiting team city, but from the rest of the country. And here we obtain non-significant impact. So if you promote or you relegate, the number of tourists that you receive won't increase. And we also analyze the impact of the popularity of the city using Google Trends. And we also see that there is no impact. Okay, as Rose, let's check. We can think, Carlos. Okay, I like or I don't like your work, but you told before that you are using sensor data. Okay, so we repeated this work using a correlated random effects topic model, and the effects and the impact is quite similar. So there is no changes here. Basically, so the effects remain. Okay, conclusions. The first conclusion is that the promotion increases tourism flows from the visiting team cities the day of the match. The second conclusion is that, okay, the number of tourists that you receive from cities or the visiting team increases, but the number of tourists that you receive from the rest of the country doesn't increase. So there is no evidence in favor of the brand city. Sorry, there is no evidence in favor of the city brand hypothesis. So the policy implication is okay if you support your club, if you support the club of your city, it's possible that the number of tourists that you will receive increases, but you have to be very careful. But you only we are going to receive more tourists only of these cities, not of the rest of the country. So if you want to increase your city brands, if you want to increase your visibility, I think that you have to use tools that instead of promote your club. Possible extensions, for example, the work of Singleton, Bell, Chan, and Reade found that having a club in the Premier League has a positive effect in the number and the quality of the students of the universities. So why my results could be different? One possibility is that here we are analyzing the national tourism. However, in the case of the international tourism, it could be different. For example, Oviedo is well known in the rest of the country. So, okay, if Real Oviedo promotes to the first division, I don't think that this will increase its visibility because Oviedo is well known in the rest of the country. But if you go to the rest of the world, in the sense of the international tourism, It's possible that people that follows the La Liga, if these people will know Oviedo because of La Liga, because these people are not living in Spain. And for example, Luton in England, Luton is well known in England, but in the rest of the world not. So, but people that are following the Premier League know Luton because of the Premier League. So it could be interesting to analyze the impact of promotion and relegation, not in the national tourism, but also in the international tourism. So this is a possible extension. And a possible extension is that, okay, we are analyzing the promotion relegation, but it could be interesting to analyze the impact of playing European competitions like Champions League, the European League, and also the impact of winning the Champions League. It could be possible to analyze these too. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. That's all. And if you have any questions, I would be very happy to answer.
Great. Thank you very much, Carlos. I'm giving you a team's round of applause. That was a really interesting presentation on the impact of tourism within football. We've got plenty of time for questions and comments, so we can open the floor to any questions and comments that folk might have. Stefan.
Yeah, Carlos, very interesting, and as I understood it, I think sounds quite persuasive. The thing I wanted to know more about, I thought, was you have the regression coefficients. What does that mean in terms of actual estimated numbers? So how many more people is it? So I would have thought one could establish reasonably whether these extra tourists are just simply fans going to watch the games, or whether it's anything above and beyond that. Are they bringing their families, their aunts and uncles and friends and relatives? You know, is that what's going on? So can you answer that question?
Yes. Let me share again the okay. Let me. Mhm. I don't know. Okay. The dependent variable is expressed in logs. So it's a percentage. So in this case, if I remember the impact, it's about 156%, more or less. It's a very high impact, but you have to take into account that we have a very high granularity because we have monthly data. We have the number of tourists that in 1 month one city received from other city. So possible a small number of tourists has here very high. So in percentual terms, the impact is very high. Perhaps in absolute numbers, the impact is lower.
Yeah, so I still don't really know the answer to the question though, because you've told me about a percentage and I'm not sure what the denominator is. Well, you could just say you could just, based on your regression, you have the visitor numbers, and then you could present the counterfactual number without the coefficient. What would the number have been? And then you have an exact number of people based on your estimates, and you could do this club by club. And I think that would then sort of see whether it would pass on the smell test. Does it look right? Because at the moment, I'm just saying, I don't know I don't know how many people we're talking about. Is this 1 million extra people coming? Is this 550 extra people coming? I have no idea from what you're presenting, I think. And I think but the point is you can do that because you've got the numbers, you've got the underlying numbers, which enabled you to run the regression. So it's not it's not a difficult problem to fix, I think. And I think it's just what everybody's going to ask. They say, well, what's the exact number you're talking about here? Is this credible?
Okay, yes, okay. We have to, perhaps here we have to take into account, we have to provide the absolute numbers um, and take into account that the impact could be different depending of the size of the city. So
yeah, sure. So so for example, if you generated the fitted results and then generated the fitted results without the promotion and relegation coefficients, that would give you the exact difference between the two cases, the case with and the case without. So in fact, that's exactly what we want to know, right? I think so. I think this is not a difficult ask. This shouldn't take you very long to do, I don't think. And then we'll just be a nice, would clarify exactly what the implications are of your analysis.
Totally, Stefan. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stefan. Dennis has got his hand up.
Thanks, Carlos. Very interesting. I agree with Stefan. One of my questions was going to be about the number of people. I would carry that a little bit farther because you're talking about whether it makes sense for the local government to subsidize in some way. And so this is a way roughly to get a sense of how valuable these extra people are compared to how much the subsidy is. And that would be very convincing evidence one way or another if this is a good idea for the local government. My second question is about the whether there are multiple clubs coming to your city from the same origination. So I don't know the league very well, but I can imagine that there are not very many cities that have multiple clubs in the second division. And so I wonder if that variable is really being dominated by Madrid. And maybe I'm wrong, but I would like some clarification on how many different cities could be sending a club to Oviedo, say, more than one club in the same month to Oviedo.
Thank you, Dennis. Yes, totally. Yeah. In the second division, most cities most cities have only one team in the second division. In the case of the first division, we have here we have analyzed the interprovincial flows, and we have Madrid, Valencia, and Sevilla. These three provinces have more than one city. Sorry, from more than one team. In the case of Valencia, has two teams. In the case of Madrid, depending of the season, it has 2 or 3 teams, and Sevilla has 2 teams. But in the rest of the cases, it's very usual that one province has only one team.
Okay, that was my feeling, that there weren't many. How often is it that both of the teams from Sevilla or both of the teams from Valencia are in the second division so that Oviedo could get both teams from Valencia in the same month, or both teams from Sevilla. That seems like an incredibly small number of cases.
Yes, it's very small number of cases that one city plays against the same against play against the same city twice in 1 month. It's very unusual, but we have this into account in the model using the number of matches that the city plays against the same city in 1 month. Anyway, I would like to underline that here we have only into account the tourism between provinces. So, for example, imagine that tourism between cities inside one province. For example, in the case of Asturias, last year, Asturias has had two teams in the second division of Oviedo and Sporting. However, we don't analyze this data because they are tourists inside inside the same province, but the National Institute of Statistics doesn't provide this data. Here we only have analyzed interprovincial tourism.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. Rob is next.
Oh, thanks, Carlos. Yes, very interesting. And I had the similar concern to Stefan, really, about your measurement of effects. So 0.973 on the slide on the screen strikes me as very large indeed. You're looking at 100% increase in tourism here for the promoted teams. And following from that, that 0.973 becomes zero when you control for visiting club membership, and it's square. So could you elaborate more on the mechanism by which this effect completely disappears? What's happening with the visiting club membership? What's the mechanism there?
Okay, yes, let me show you the, okay. Okay. And the idea is, okay, okay. Here we have to take into account that the number of members is an endogenous variable. It's a variable that is affected by the shock. So when you promote, the type of cities you are playing change. So when you play in the second division, you are playing against um, against teams of cities that are low population. However, when you promote to the first division, you are going to play against teams that belong to large cities with a higher number of fans. So this is the mechanism. So you receive more visitors, more tourists, because the team you are playing against have more fans. This is the idea.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think to back that up, you might want to look at a standard attendance model maybe and figure out, especially the interaction of visiting club membership. I mean, we don't know what proportion of these members actually travel, but what's the impact of visiting club membership on the attendance of the receiving team through the season? Because the impacts will vary. You know, going to Madrid in February is different to going in April.
Yes, totally. However, I think that we have this into account using time. variable, the time variable in the model. So you are going to the model. Okay, you are right. It's possible that we could interact the time variable with the cities, but I don't see, because the impact of the time, I think that is very similar to all cities. Don't you see it?
Yeah, okay.
Great. Thanks, Rob. Any more questions and comments? Just on these regressions, Carlos, the 4,500 observations, this is basically a balanced panel, is it? Years and combinations of provinces for the tourism travel. Is that the unit of observation?
Yes, this is all the stacks. These are the observation of all the stacks, of all the cohorts. And here we have monthly data for each city. So we have for each city the observations of the tourism from the rest of the cities.
Yeah.
So from
Yeah.
yes, I don't know if you understand. Okay.
I think, yeah, I don't know. The next question might reveal whether I understand or not. But what I just wonder then, if it is a balanced panel of tourism between two cities and all the different city pairs you can have, would it make sense to have a 0-1 dummy variable in for there being a match between those two cities in that given month?
In a given month, we have the idea is that if we have the observation, the number of tourists that you received one city from the rest, and for example, Madrid against the rest of the cities of the league that are playing the league. So in 1 month of January, if it plays Real Madrid against Sevilla, we introduce an indicator with that identify the shock in this month. If in this month doesn't play against Sevilla, we don't the indicator, it will be at 0, and if in this month plays against Sevilla, the indicator is 1. So this indicator shows the shock.
Yeah, true, because you wouldn't have that matchup if there hadn't been a promotion or relegation.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, I think it's a fascinating data set that you've got. A couple of points that I was going to make were a little bit. Well, the first one was a little bit based on, obviously, thank you for referring to our paper on university admissions. One of the other points that I think we were quite conscious of was the name association. So University of Reading and Reading Football Club, whereas on the other hand, University of Sussex and Brighton and Hove Albion. So because the name association wasn't there, if there was a name in common, we then looked at the effect. But if there wasn't a name in common, we didn't look for the effect. I know that a number of teams in Spain don't share the name of the town or the city that they're from. So I don't know whether that was something that might be interesting. I mean, I guess probably everyone in Spain knows, that Osasuna is in Pamplona or something like that. Whereas, the rest of us just think Osasuna must be somewhere in Spain. So it might not be relevant, but it's just a kind of a thought was that obviously some of these teams won't share the name of their city.
Yes, it would be interesting to exploit this situation. When I read your paper, I realized that you had this into account, that the name of the club was the same that the name of the city. As you said, in the case of the Spain, there are some clubs, some teams that don't have the exact name of the city. It could be interesting to refine this. Yes, you are right, totally right.
And I also wondered, kind of a converse question actually was, you know, I know a lot of fan travel because obviously I've also been working on a paper on fan travel into games, and a lot of fan travel is based on novelty. So you sometimes find that fans of teams, if their team is relegated, they're more likely to travel to an away game because it's a new place to go to. So it's somewhere different. And so you might find that if a big team gets relegated, so you know, a couple of years ago, Birmingham City were relegated to the third division, and they're playing very small teams all around the country, and all of these teams are suddenly getting 2, 3, 4,000 Birmingham fans turning up. So there's kind of, I guess, some kind of external effect. You know, Birmingham being relegated was good for perhaps the tourism of lots of other places. You know, Birmingham itself didn't gain and maybe lost, as in the kind of the way you illustrate it with your results. But every other place, you know, that was covered in that division gained by the fact that Birmingham City were in that division for a season.
Mhm. Yes, totally. Yes, it's something that it could be interesting to analyze too. Yes, I agree. Yes.
Okay, any more questions and comments?
Can I just say
Dennis.
one thing? I think I'm confused a little bit because Carlos, you often refer to city, but as I understood your answer to my previous question, what you have is regional tourism flows. So I think that referring to cities is maybe a source of confusion. And in particular, when what I now think I understand is the way that you could have two visitors to your region. So the same club from Seville could play in Oviedo and in Gijón in the same month. You wouldn't have to have two clubs from Seville play in Gijón or two clubs from Seville play in Oviedo, but one club from Seville play in both places in the same month. And that I think, for me at least, makes it clearer what is happening with that variable. And maybe also that relates to the size of like the visiting club member. I'm not sure about that, but I think that clarifies things, at least for me, to make sure that you don't refer to the city so much as the province.
Yes, totally, Dennis. Yeah, thank you for your for this. Yes, I am analyzing the flows, the tourism flows between cities. So the number of tourists that Oviedo received from Madrid, from Barcelona. However, the National Institute of Statistics doesn't provide the number of tourists that Oviedo receives from Gijón. So here we don't have into account the interprovincial flows, but what we are analyzing is the tourism from cities, from one city to other city.
So you actually know how many Madrileños end up in Oviedo.
Yes, we know. What we don't
Okay.
know is how many people from Gijón go to Oviedo.
Okay.
But the number of people of Madrid that go to Oviedo, we know it. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I
Then take into account that there is no it's not a problem not having information about the flows between cities inside the province, because
no,
inside the province
I understand. Yeah, absolutely. But I thought before that you had said that you only had from one province to another province.
no.
Okay.
Yes. It's true that it was confusing my explanation, but and thank you for for saying this. But I am analyzing flows between cities. Yes.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Great. Thanks, Dennis. Any more questions and comments? Okay, I think that's a no, in which case it's thank you, Carlos. I'm Roberto, your co-author. Really interesting piece of work, and thank you for presenting it. I wish you all the best as you develop the work further and move towards submission. So that's all for the year. We'll wrap up and have a Christmas break. At the moment, our next scheduled talk will be on January the 16th. Julia Engel from the University of Kiel. I don't have her title to hand, but I believe her paper is on chess. And there is a Saturday before that, the Saturday the 9th of January. And that slot is now free. It's been recently vacated. And so if you do have a presentation you'd like to present, or you know someone that does, and they want to jump in on the 9th of January, that's available. But if not, I wish you all a fantastic Christmas and a fantastic New Year. I look forward to seeing you all again in 2026.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carlos.
Yes,
Bye.
happy holidays, everyone.